Hey guys, Infidel 1258 here. Tonight I want to share with you a long and winding conversation between myself and my community where we were discussing the merits of holding SPS versus DEC. Is the SPS airdrop points important at this moment? There's only 120 days left in the airdrop. How meaningful is that? How do I calculate and think that through as I weigh the benefit of holding DEC for those SPS airdrop points versus the downside potential of DEC returning to peg? This is a long conversation from a series of comments that came from a live event recently. Stick around, stay tuned for the whole thing. This is my complex and deep dive on my current opinion about holding DEC for the SPS airdrop points. Guys, thank you so much for your time and attention. Have an amazing day. God bless.
I did something a little crazy today with my vouchers.
What'd you do?
I turned them into SPS.
And are you glad you did it? Or tell me about the numbers. Like, I don't know where vouchers are at right now.
Well, vouchers are at $1 right now.
Okay.
Which I'm like, all right, it's not like as high as I think they're going to be, but SPS is so low that I think we're more likely to get a 10x from SPS than we are with vouchers.
SPS is 10 cents and vouchers. Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. That sounds like good logic to me. The problem is, no, I think that I can't really argue with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think vouchers could go to $10, but I do think SPS could go to $1 almost overnight. And I think vouchers would take months.
I could easily see it going there like around the time Rift Watchers is here.
DEC is going to peg. Chaos, I think it might be, my dude, but I wouldn't say overnight. I do believe that we'll see a pop. We can talk more about that for sure.
If it goes to peg, I want to buy a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because we still have 120 days for the airdrop.
Yeah, Chaos cometh. I really don't see how that could possibly be the case right now. You know what I mean? Like, sure, that is absolutely something that could happen, and it could happen soon. But for it to happen in the next, week or 2 weeks would imply that people just don't care about SPS anymore. And I don't believe that for a second. Because those airdrop points, they got cheaper, right? They went from, it was 3 cents, or sorry, it was a third of a cent for DEC. Very recently. Like, look. Okay, so right here, it was like, might as well call that a third of a cent. And that was on the 19th of March. So 6 days ago, not even a week ago, it was 30% more expensive. It was 30% more expensive a week ago. Or it's almost lost 50% of its value, you could also say, because it's gone from 3 tenths to 2 tenths. So DC got much cheaper, and as a result, those airdrop points got much cheaper. I think some people, and you can look at this volume. I think that volume is in part that sell volume, like right here. This is like sell, and then sell. But then I bet some of this here is actually buy volume, where people, and that's why we saw it really it went crashing and then boom, flat, and it just started trading sideways for probably 4 hours or something. I guess that would be about, I think each one of those bars is an hour, if I'm not mistaken.
You can also zoom into 24 hours.
Yeah. So still look at remember we talked about this the other day, Jim. See that type of downward?
Yeah.
That's very formulaic. So but I do agree it will go to peg. I just don't agree that that's in the short term.
Chuny did have a question, which Chuny, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Any thoughts on the DEC decline today? I'm thinking SPS may be better to hold for now. SPS is going to be better to hold.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. The question is, are you willing to ride that volatility? Like, I firmly believe that it makes sense to buy things when they're down and to sell them when they're up. And I don't get scared by, big drops. Like I'm going to buy a little more right now. Let's see, you got 70,000, 70, maybe 100. I could buy about 100,000 that way. So that's the price.
If this ever goes down to peg, or even, like closer to peg, it's like, oh man, you should, you're going to get your money back in SPS. Like, for sure within those 120 days. It's going to be far worth it.
That's why I'm not going to buy, like you just, maybe, I don't know who saw, but I have about 800 Hive in my Hive engine. I'm not going to go and buy 800 Hive worth because it might fall down again tomorrow. But do you see, that doesn't scare me. I would just buy $200 more tomorrow and I'll keep dollar cost averaging until it turns around, because I'm convinced it will turn around for the reasons I've talked about before with the altcoin market, but also specifically with DEC, because this continues to be the cheapest way to get airdrop points. And I know we're getting close to the end, but I don't believe that people are en masse moving out of DEC at this time, in this moment in the airdrop. With 123 days left, four, is that 4 months? 4 months.
120 days. Yeah, pretty much 4 months.
4 months? No, man, I don't believe that. So I think there are people who will buy that and drive it back closer to a third of a penny, maybe even higher. And I think, as we get closer to say 30 days out, the risk gets pretty concerning or whatever, but I don't know. I'm also willing to eat a certain amount of loss for these airdrop points. Do you know what I mean? Like if my DEC that I'm buying at 2/10 of a penny goes down to 1/10 of a penny, I've lost half my value. But, have I gained SPS, significant amount of SPS by holding that? I think the answer is probably yes, right? Like I'm getting huge airdrop points from my DEC.
Because now you also consider how many points you're getting for the airdrop. Then, you take that, divide it by the 12,000, figure out how much more you're actually going to be getting, then speculate where that SPS price is going to be going, right? Like a lot of people easily see it going to the dollar mark.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm with you.
So the more SPS you can get, especially right now, cutting your loss of DEC by half. But if you turn around and you're able to get like 10, 20 times the price or the value inside of SPS, it is super worth it. And that's where the power of diversifying your portfolio is huge, because now you can play around with those numbers.
Yep, exactly. I'm not sure if this will work, but I just Cax Ips 06 just won 5 SPS. I'm going to see if that's actually his in-game name, and no, invalid account. So Cax, let me know the actual in-game name, and I'll send you 5 SPS. Tales from the Cryptomancers in the house. 1 million DEC was $3,000 maybe 10 days ago. Now worth on paper $2,000. Need to generate 10,000 SPS via airdrops to make up that loss if you take current SPS value. Yes, if you take current SPS value. And I don't, because I'm not thinking, short-term turnaround, right?
Selling it now.
Pardon?
I said, yeah, exactly. We're not selling it now. We're looking for it to get to its place.
And then you might say, well, then if you don't think SPS is gonna, you might say that if you think DEC is gonna fall in the short term and that SPS isn't gonna pop in the short term, then maybe just don't do it that way anyways. Like you could make that argument that if SPS isn't going to pop in the short term, then you do need to think about it like he's saying, where it's like you need 10,000 SPS via the airdrop. But I don't agree, because here's the thing. SPS could, as far as I'm concerned, it could go to $1 any day. And all it would take is, oh, we're on Binance now. And I think almost overnight, I think we'd be $1. And it might go, I'm not saying it would go to $1 and then stabilize at $1. It might rush up to $1 and then fall back to like 40 cents. But I think if we got listed on Binance, and that could happen at any moment, I think Binance is literally just a pay to play. You buy your ticket on the marketplace for half a million, as far as I know, and then you're there. And so let's say that happened. I don't want to miss that opportunity. And so I like positioning myself in a way where that SPS is coming in. I want 1 million SPS. I have like maybe 70,000. And I want to position myself so that I'm getting as much as possible, because I do think it could move suddenly and in a dramatic way. And I actually think DEC could move suddenly and in a dramatic way also. And so I'm willing to play some of that risk, Cryptomancer. But your point's not lost on me.
Hey, real quick, pull up a calculator, or is that not going to get thrown up on this screen?
It won't show for them, but for you and me, we can see it.
So real quick, I just did the math for it, right? So say we're saying $1,000 DEC right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead and put in the 1,000, divide that by 0.002.
Yep.
So that's how much you'll be getting in DEC. Okay.
Yep.
Now we go ahead and divide that by 12,000.
Yeah.
That's how much you're getting per day. Go ahead and times that by 125. So now you're getting 5,000 of the SPS by the end of the airdrop for that amount. Okay.
Yeah.
Now say if we sell SPS when it's at $1 mark, you're now selling that what you got for $5,208 to where the other thing would then be going down, say, in half. So 500 there. So then total left over, you would have $5,708.
Yeah.
You could put in the 1,000 SPS right now, which could potentially go to $10,000 if it is, goes up 10x essentially. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But to push back on your point, Jim, Cryptomancer is saying the volatility with the DEC over the last 10 days has been such that if you're holding DEC 10 days ago and now you're still holding it, you've lost $1,000. And so you're kind of saying if you took $1,000 today and bought new DEC, he's saying if I had $3,000 worth of DEC 10 days ago, I now need 12,000 SPS to make up that difference at today prices or whatever. So they're they're both interesting. Your point is still super correct. If you bought $1,000 worth of DEC today, you'd get 500 grand worth of DEC. That would equate to 5,000 SPS over the next 120 days. That's huge. And I do believe you're right, Jim, that it probably should be measured on like a $1 basis per SPS. That's how you should value the SPS as far as I'm concerned. And I think, and that's the energy and the thoughtfulness I bring to the analysis around all of the cards too, guys. You've heard me talk about how, Pelican Mercy is not worth 2 cents. That's the price, but that's not the value. And I feel the same thing with SPS. So I totally agree with you, Jim. But I do think it's important for us to Steelman Cryptomancer's argument, because I think he's making an interesting point that if you're riding it down, you are stung, and maybe it's hard to pay off that quote unquote loss. But I do think DEC could pop again. I do think it will pop again. I don't think it's done until the airdrop's done. And I want to generate as much SPS airdrop points as possible, even if that means I'm risking a bit of depreciation on my price for my DEC, because like we're all implying, we feel strongly SPS could just go suddenly. And if you don't have that airdrop point, those airdrop points in your account already by holding that DEC, if SPS pops to $1, guess what happens to DEC? It pops, right? It necessarily pops because it changes the dynamics on how meaningful every SPS is and how meaningful those airdrop points are, right? I hope that makes sense to everybody.
You know, now that I'm thinking more about it and finally putting the numbers into it,
Yeah.
um, you know, depending on what the price even goes to, it feels like it is actually just better to be buying the SPS outright as of right now. Because like you were saying that you do want to have a lot of airdrop points, but as we could just saw right here, say you sold something for, you know, the $1,000, you get more SPS if you just buy the SPS directly, and that's also not even including what you get daily from the staking it.
The stake is about 40% across a year, and then so you're talking like, you know, if you bought 10,000, if you bought 5,000 SPS for $500, and then you stake it for a year, you should get something like oh man, I can't do the math too quickly in my head, but it's interesting. But the stake value is like not so huge that I'm super convinced by that alone. I think the strongest argument for what Cryptomancer is saying is this: that DEC is really volatile, and that DEC almost certainly will go down to peg. He didn't say that, but I think that's intrinsic to what he's getting at, where it's like, it's all like, this is all, you've seen it drop a lot. It almost certainly will drop more once it's no longer has this airdrop value. So with that in mind, yes, be aware of the risk of holding DEC. But when I don't think it's going to peg value yet. And I think the considerations that exist that can be measured right now would imply that we are going to see DEC pump before it goes much lower. Like I think the airdrop points for 120 days. So hang on. We just said if you bought $1,000, you would get 5,000 SPS. So
yep,
you'd get five, which is at today's price. That's half of like if no prices changed theoretically, and DEC will change and everything will change. But if you bought $1,000 worth of DEC today and you held it till the end of the airdrop, you're going to get 5,000 SPS.
Yep.
That is worth 5,000 times 10 cents. What is that? 250? 5,000 times point. It's $500. So, yeah. I mean, you're going to get half of your money back just by holding DEC, and you can spend the DEC. And so you might say to me, but the DEC is going to plummet by that point. And I would say, I don't think it's going to plummet much lower than it already has before like 30 days out. Like, I think we're almost, I feel convinced, and I respectfully disagree. I totally get it. But I think it's going to go up to closer to 0.3 of a penny before it goes down to peg. That's my opinion. And I feel pretty strongly about it. SPS has been stable recently, and DEC has dropped 30% during the same time period and will continue to drop. Guaranteed staking rewards in your asset will ultimately want to own is EV. Let's see. But I don't think SPS has been relatively stable. I don't think that's a fair suggestion. I think, we were recently at like 15 cents. Now, in the last 10 days, maybe it's been, better than DEC. But like, this is the last week. Look, we were at 11 cents. That's like a 10%, like pretty well 11 cents. And
or then we were also back down to around the 10-cent mark.
Yeah, like right here.
30 days.
Let's see, 30 days. So 30 days, the peak of the 30-day window is 14.6 cents. And we touched nine and like in the 9 cent range. So that's like a 50% decline. So, I mean, again, what you're calling for is really prudent, probably. I think it is. I think it's probably prudent that you would just, if you're really deeply, powerfully interested in SPS. I'm going to re-roll this, by the way. So I got 5 SPS. I'm going to re-roll it for the win because this is a bot apparently. So I removed that one. This is for 5 SPS. I fully agree that it would probably be, if you want SPS, the frugal thing, the prudent thing to do is just go buy the SPS. but I'm talking about a little bit of a gamble where I think I've got a certain vision about what's going to happen with altcoins, and I think that includes SPS. And if I'm right about that plan, there's trickle down implications for what would happen with DEC because of the relationship between the two. And I think I've bet a lot of my investments are geared towards this one plan. And if I end up being wrong, I'm willing to wear that. But man, I feel strongly. And so I'm kind of pushing. I got my chips, you know, I played a lot of no limit hold'em in the old days, and I got my chips in front of me, man. I'm just like I'm all in, and I'm happy with my position.